Hello, everybody. It's Colin Ellis here, and welcome to another Culture and Coffee podcast for Monday, the 5th of December 2022. I'm not going to mention the World Cup. I've decided that that's not what I'm going to do, so I'm not going to do it. Which basically just takes away all of the fun of this podcast when I want to talk about the things that I actually like. Instead, I have to talk about the things that you might actually be interested in. But I'm not going to talk about the World Cup. So there you go. I'm just going to say it one more time. I'm not going to talk about the World Cup. I am going to talk about how to end the calendar year on a cultural high. That's what I'm going to talk about this week. It's 20 days to Christmas. I can do that math. That's the level to which my maths is at. You know, it's the 5th, and I know that Christmas Day is on the 25th. So it's 20 days to Christmas, if you celebrate that kind of thing. Yes, so how to end the year on a high. This week's coffee is one of my all-time favourites. It's an Ethiopian Yirgacheffe. This one is from Kit Espresso in Melbourne. Bought the beans from that. We brewed pot of coffee and then saved some and popped it in the fridge to make a cold brew. And it really is as simple as that. You just brew it, leave it sit for a while, pop it in the fridge, and then pour it straight into a glass. Perfect for a hot day. And it's been scorchio in Melbourne this week. Got a little glimpse of summer. I feel like, I don't know about, if you're Australian listening to this, you probably understand this. I feel like all the seasons have moved on a month. You know, I feel like when we got here, like almost 10 years ago, like summer started at the beginning of December. And I was like, hey, summer's here. It's December 1st. It's like the switch had flipped. But I don't know, it feels like last year, we had a great summer here in Melbourne last year, despite everything that was going on in the world. Here's your weather update, those of you who are looking out for it. Those of you who are playing Culture and Coffee Bingo, football I mentioned, even to say that I wasn't mentioning it, and here's a weather update. Mention number of days to Christmas if that was on your bingo card. House. Yeah, I just completely distracted myself now. I forgot completely what I was talking about. I'm sure it'll come back to me. Yeah, shouldn't have done that. Got completely distracted. Anyway, Ethiopian Yirgacheffe. Yeah, so pop it in the cold brew. Did I say that about the cold brew? I did. I've completely lost my train of thought now. So I should just carry on with what I was going to talk about, which was the Yirgacheffe. The rest will come back to me. Don't you worry. So the reason that it's so good, I mean, the Yirgacheffe is considered to be the birthplace of coffee in the first century. If you haven't heard me say this or haven't heard me, I've had one or two Yirgacheffes over the time that I've been doing the podcast. The seasons, there it is. There it is. I knew I would remember. Yeah, I feel like the seasons have moved on a month, like to the point where like last year it was like January to April. We had this great summer. And like, you know, it's been beautiful and hot and all of the things this weekend, which of course I filled with jobs, because that's what you do on a beautiful day. It's just like, it's gorgeous. People are sat out in the park opposite from the house, young people laughing, music. I see alcohol. So, you know, perfect time to clear out the garage and power wash the yard. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I haven't relaxed at all. Anyway, back to Yirgacheffe. Now I remember. Thank God for that. I thought I had some kind of brain injury. Birthplace of coffee. So the birthplace of coffee, when the local tribespeople noticed the burst of energy that they got from eating the cherries. So there you go. It's one of the best in the world, the Yirgacheffe. So you're going to pay a little bit more for it. But it's grown in a warm tropical climate, plenty of sun, plenty of rain, and it's high up. You know, it's high altitude volcanic soil, which is where coffee thrives. So I'm just going to have a drink of this. I'm spitting feathers. I mean, it's just delicious. It really is just one of the best coffees. It's like floral and nutty and all of those things. And like, I'm just drinking. It's just ice cold. You can put it over ice. It's ice cold and it's just delicious. Anyway, enough of all that. Let's talk about the culture stuff. One of the things that we used to do when I was a senior manager is we would always have an end of year reflection. They call it a retrospective these days. Language moves on, of course it does. We always used to have an end of year reflection. And the end of year reflection what we did is we kind of looked back at everything that we'd done culturally, some of the highs, some of the things that we learned, and then we'd use it as a basis or as a bit of I guess, a launch pad for the following year. Now, I used to do this back when I was in the UK, so wasn't summer. It wasn't like people were going on holiday necessarily. I mean, there were a few. The senior managers who had the money were all going skiing. Someone said to me recently, he's like, "Oh, do you ski?" I'm like, "It's not the kind of thing you do growing up in Liverpool." "Oh, do you surf?" Same thing. I had a PC when I was 25. That's when my surfing started. So back in the UK, it's a bit of it's dark. I was in the UK recently. It's like dark at 4 o'clock, and it only comes light about 8:30. Anyone in the UK now, I feel for you. You get 7-8 hours of sun, of daylight. I was going to say sun, as if it's pouring with rain and slightly grim. But the decorations look nice, don't they? So that's all good. But I used it as what we wanted to do was to come back at the start of the year with a real bang. We didn't, everyone, particularly in England back then, everyone overate, everyone overdrank, all of those kind of things. Everyone's coming back with a load of resolutions to exercise more and do all of this stuff. But what I didn't want was for my team coming back going, "Oh God, work." So we did a reflection. Now, what happened throughout the year is I would keep. It started off as an email back in the early days of email. It started off as a draft email, and then eventually it morphed into a document. And every time we did something culturally, as a senior manager, I would make a note of it. And so these were events, these were key milestones. This was learning and development, where we would do kind of something as a team to celebrate success, or socially, I would keep a note of it. And by the end of the year, this document, this draft email, and what then became a document, was about 60, 70 lines long. And of course, the onus was on me to capture something. And I wasn't forcing myself to do it. Just every time we did something, I would add it. I had a little mental note, must remember to add it to my end of year reflection. And so what I would then do is in December, we would plan a reflection day. And then in the evening, we would then go out and celebrate, kind of the Christmas break, wherever we were, lived in very much Christian countries where we celebrate Christmas. And so that was the thing that we did, is we would go out for a Christmas meal in the evening, or else if the company was having a Christmas party, then we would just piggyback onto the end of that. We would just piggyback onto that and go straight, literally, well, people would go home sometimes and then go straight into the Christmas party. But what the end of year reflection was a celebration. It was a celebration of all of the things that we managed to do. It was a celebration of our humanity, which sounds ridiculous. It sounds oh, really, Colin, like it's so woke. It's ridiculous. Let's just celebrate our humanity every day. Let's get around this campfire. Who brought the guitar? Tarquin, you brought the guitar. Okay, let's start strumming. Let's celebrate our humanity. You know what I mean. All right, don't let me spell it out for you. But those little human moments where we showed empathy, where we had connection, a little bit of vulnerability, where we celebrated somebody's life, where we celebrated birthdays, particularly if there were milestones. But we did. So we did all of those things. But we also ran an exercise, and I captured kind of key milestones and things like that. But we also captured, I also split the group up, and we kind of captured everything that was good about the way that we'd worked together in that year, and all of our opportunities for improvement. Now, the way that I used to manage my own personal development budget, I would split it in half. So I'd split half the money first 6 months, half the money for the second 6 months. I've talked about this on a previous podcast, always spent my development budget. I could never understand those managers who were like, "I've got development budget left over." I'm like, "I'll take it. I'll have it. Just give it to me. I've got so many things I could spend on." And I always had something planned in for the start of the new calendar year. So that would be a team building day, or if I felt that things hadn't gone right, it was a couple of days And where I had no money, then I would take the team off site for 2 days and I would run the workshop. So I couldn't afford to get it facilitated. It's better if you can get it facilitated because then you can be part of it. And I've asked HR departments and people like that in the past, and they've been very good in helping me to do that. Or else if I could afford someone, I brought them in. But what I wanted to do was to start the year, and again, it's my recommendation, which I do to all my clients, is make sure you're starting in the right way. Make sure, if you've got a defined culture, that you're refocusing people on kind of, the promises that you made each other and the things that you need to improve across the year. But also that recognition of, here's a bunch of stuff that's gone well. And you always start with that. Always start with that. I ran a session with a leadership team just last week. For the first part of the day, all we did was talk about the good stuff that we've done. It's very easy to forget about the good stuff in the maelstrom of work. And you spend an hour, and we spent like an hour and a quarter going over the good stuff. And by the end of it, people were like, wow, look at all of these things that we've done. And this is a new client that I've been working with over the last 6 months. So we did a 2-day workshop in, I think it was May, and then I do these monthly sessions every month, to kind of keep adding. And, the goal is to evolve the culture to get to the point where engagement is up, productivity is up, and they've seen all of those gains because they've done the work and they've held themselves to it. Are there things that they can improve? Absolutely, of course they can. But as a leadership team, they're really focused on the culture work, which is fabulous. But it's, kind of when you look back, there's a lot of good stuff that they've done. So that's where it starts, because you want to carry on doing the good stuff. You don't want to lose any of that momentum, right? And so the reason that you do this as close to Christmas as you possibly can is you want people to take those good vibes into Christmas. Now, the stuff that you need to work on as a team, you need to make sure you do it early. Otherwise, what happens is people come back and they get swamped. Now, for Australia and New Zealand companies, I always say that you should wait till the kids are back at school in February, because otherwise people will get left out. And what you don't want to do is leave people out. So for anybody listening overseas, it feels weird that I'm saying almost take a month off culture. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you want to be as inclusive as you possibly can. And if you live in Australia and New Zealand, what happens is over the month of January, generally, is everyone takes holidays, right? It was different in the UK. People took holidays June, July, August, right? Kind of, depending on whether you had kids. Whereas Australia and New Zealand, generally January is a write-off. And I still can't believe the amount of people that plan work as if they're at full capacity over January. It's just like, you have to have a look. Like, most organizations are barely at 50% capacity. And yet they're still planning at 100%. And people come back in and they're just swamped by work. Do you know what I mean? Anybody in Australia, New Zealand's like, oh my God, when I come back to work, I feel like I regret taking the time off work because I've got so much to do. So organizations do need to be better at capacity planning, capacity management, and, kind of looking at when stuff gets done. Anyway, that's not the point of this. That feels like a whole other podcast. I should make a note of that one. But kind of, for that month of January, probably, unless you've got everybody back towards the end of the month, then you're going to do that. For everybody else, and I'm going to be running a session for a team in Europe early in the new year. It is, make sure, actually, I hesitated then because I was like, didn't I just put all my jumpers away? Do you do that? Do you have like a summer wardrobe and a winter wardrobe? And I'm thinking, I just put all my jumpers away. I'm thinking, I'm going to have to get some of them out. I'm going to be working with the team early in the new year because you want to start the year off in the right way. So you want to make sure you've got a good development plan. Now, some of that might be personal. Some of that might be focused on the individual. Mainly, you want to focus it on team. As a team, how do we re-energize? How do we re-engage? How do we motivate ourselves and each other and come back with that real renewed conviction? Regardless of when things get delivered, I've worked with a number of project teams in a similar way. It's just like, we've got to get this project finished by May. I was like, cool, let's do something right at the start of the year. Let's get everybody re-engaged, because culture is still and always will be the number one determinant of team, project, organization success. Always. So you need that commitment to culture almost immediately when you come back, whenever that might be. And the way that you get that is by continuing to do all of the good stuff that you did last year and make sure that that's visible and acknowledged and you celebrate that. And focus on the things that you need to work on. Focus on those 2, 3, 4 things that you're like, right, we need to do more of this. Now, for some people, with one team, it's more empathy. Like they got the work done, but they kind of got it done despite people. And it wasn't that, they treated people disrespectfully or anything like that. It just felt painful. Do you know what I mean? Some people listening to this will be like, oh God, that's us right now. Like we're getting through stuff, but it feels like, bodies are scattered, on the road to execution. For some people, it's a lack of execution. Some people have done the empathy stuff really, really well, and there just isn't the cut through or the drive, the come on, let's get this done. Right? And that's that sense of vibrancy is where you've got good empathy, you've got good humanity, you've got high emotional intelligence, but there's also a real commitment to get some stuff done. There's a commitment to making some decisions. There's a commitment to kind of trading off, and what you see from senior leaders here is the role models. Now, if you're a senior leader listening to this, you've got to come back in the new year with the most amount of energy. Now, you don't have to be like, Tigger bouncing off the walls, you don't have to do that. Leave that to me. You can hire me. I'm quite happy to do that. You don't have to do that. What you've got to do is demonstrate that I've had a good break. I've switched off from the devices. Please don't be doing your emails over the holiday. Actually, I'll make this point at the end. Right, you've got to come back with energy. You've got to show everybody else the right way to come back. That intention, the intrinsic motivation, which I've talked about on the podcast. That real, drive and desire comes from intrinsic motivation. You wanting to be the best version of yourself and contributing to the success of whoever it is that you're working for. And my personal feeling on this is you can only really do that if you've got a plan to re-energize people in the new year. So ending on a cultural high, what you're going to do is give people a sense of accomplishment. You're going to give, kind of really going to put it out there. Here's all the great stuff that we've done. And there's not a but, right? So if you're splitting your workshop into half and half, it's like, here's all the great stuff we've done, but here's the stuff we have to improve, right? Don't do that. What you do is, here's all the great stuff that they've done, and here's our opportunities for improvement next year. It's a subtle tweak of language. I get that. But you want people to focus on the opportunity for improvement now. The elephant in the room is that 1 or 2 people haven't been pulling their weight. I guarantee it. But what you can't afford to do is just to think that they're going to take a break over Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, right? Or the New Year, or whenever you celebrate, right? They're going to take a break and come back a different person. That's not going to happen. In fact, usually they've just got more energy to moan more than they were at the end of the year. They were too tired to moan, but they come back in the new year and they've got a ton of energy and they're ready to moan again. So you have to deal with that before Christmas. And then there'll be a school of thought, it's like, oh, it's a callous thing to do before Christmas. No, it's not. It's a callous thing to do is to wait. You've got to deal with these things quickly, and hopefully you've already done it and you haven't been sat on it for weeks and months. But, you're going to sit down, you're going to have a conversation, you're going to talk about the fact that they haven't contributed in the right way, they haven't been a good human, they haven't been a team player, all of these kind of things, right? And you're going to do it ahead of December to give people the opportunity to reflect and go, hey, listen, but, it's my job. I'm here to help you. Empathy out, always. I'm here to help you be the best version of yourself next year. So listen, I want you to take some time to think about, is this what you want? What can I do to help? This is the kind of person we need you to be. This is what good teamwork looks like. And it's a chance for managers to self-reflect as well and say, am I actually being a manager? Remember, if you are a manager, your principal job is to inspire and motivate staff. That's your job. Your job is to create more leaders, which means you leading in the first place and making the choice to lead. All right, so, your principal job is to motivate and inspire staff to be the best versions of themselves, to get the work done, which means you have to free up time. You have to free up time and you have to have the mental capacity to do that. And you can't do that if you're busy all the time. So this is your opportunity as well to take a little bit of a break. Now, what you don't want to do is, if you're taking a break, and I'm going to talk about health and well-being. I probably finished the year on health and well-being. But if you're taking a break, what you don't want to be doing is sending emails during your break. I'm going to give you some things to do, some ideas in the next podcast before I break myself. But, you know, what you don't want to do is undermine your own culture by saying I'm taking a break and then responding to emails. If you're taking a break, you're taking a break. And if you're sending emails over the Christmas break when you're on a holiday, what you're doing, and I get that you might not realize that you're doing this, but you are, is you're sending the message to everybody else that I don't really have a break and I don't really expect you to take a break. If I'm sending emails, I expect you to send emails. Now you're listening to this going, absolutely not, Colin, that's BS. No, that's not what I'm saying. Yeah, it is. It really, really is. So if you're taking a break, you're taking a break. And then when you come back in the new year, you come back with that energy, that commitment, that drive, that focus. You've got your development planned either at a personal level or at a team level. You're going to have that recommitment to culture, and then you go again. What you want to do is start at 80%. Right, you can never start at 100%. You want to start at 80%. That's where you want to come back with you and your team. And you want to use all of that energy that people have got. Because not only did they take a break, but you ended the year on a culture high as well. All right, that's your Culture and Coffee podcast for today. Hope you have a fabulous day wherever you are. Ta-ra for now.